Hi everybody, welcome to this my TeachPHP tutorial. For a while I've just been teaching you the basics for the past couple of days. I've just been posting tutorials about basics of PHP, and we've learned about the echo function, include function, get function, PHP post function, and etc. But there's more to PHP than just functions and stuff. You have to be able to use databases and things, because otherwise if you're not going to be using things to store data and things like that, then it sort of defeats the purpose a bit of PHP. Then you'd be more geared for using HTML. But for people who are looking to do things like search engines and logins, forms, and member websites and video sites and all that sort of thing, like things like YouTube and things that people can use, then that's when you would use databases. So what I'm using is phpMyAdmin. It comes installed if you use XAMPP as your to install PHP and MySQL and all, and it goes to your localhost /phpMyAdmin. So I'm going to show you what it's like, and I'm just going to log in. Okay, so as you can see, I have WebAuth, TeachPHP, the database, and phpMyAdmin, MySQL, and etc. The only one I created was TeachPHP. The rest of them, the WebAuth and stuff, they come as default. So to let you get the grips of using databases, I'm going to create a new one. So if we go down to MySQL localhost, well, that's because I'm using localhost. If you're using your web host, then it'll probably be different. So I'm just going to type in tutorial as the name of the database, and just leave correlation alone and click create. It says database, and then the name tutorial is the name of the database, and it has been created. And this is the PHP code, so if you put this into a PHP script and run it in your browser, it would create the page tutorial. And I'll do a bit more like that in future tutorials. So this is when you create a table, because every piece of data isn't stored directly in your database tutorial. It will be stored in a table inside your database. So if you could call it tutorial, or you could call it say you were making a search engine or a video site. For search engine, you could call it search engine or results, and you would put the correct number of fields in. You could just choose 5, since we're not actually making anything. Okay, so over here it says, whenever I finish creating the table, it'll say tutorial 1, and then it'll say results below it. So in every table of a database, to display their data correctly, like if it's members or whatever, they'll need an ID, or whatever you're storing will have an ID. So first table field we need to write is ID. Okay, so the next bit is the type of the row, and integers are used for things like numbers. They don't use letters, numbers just only. A varchar is an integer basically, except you use letters and numbers. I think the limit on a varchar is 255. Text is just a big text field with no limit, well, unless you set one over in length and values. Date chooses the date, like if you want to say the member was last logged in on the whatever, and then it would say the date. And tiny int is just a small integer. A small int is bigger, but it's not as big, and that's the way it works. So there's a lot of these, but the only really ones we'll be working on until you guys get more advanced at it is date, text, varchar, and integer. But for ID, since IDs are only written as numbers, it's an integer. The length and values is 11. Well, that's what I'm going to choose, because 11 means that it can have 11 digits, so it could have 1 1 1 1 1, it could have 11 ones or 10 ones or whatever. It depends what you set this to. If you set this to 10, you can have 10 digits, so you could have like a billion users if you set it to 10, if each one got an ID. But 11's a good number. And default is to define a number. So if you're using your database, say if you have members and you want to make a partner option, you could say default, and then you could choose as defined. And then if you were using if this wasn't called ID and it was called something like partner, and it was 1 or 0, and if it was a 0 it was a default it was an ordinary user, and if it was 1 it was a partner, you would put it to as defined, or you put it to 0, and then it would be automatically 0 until you change it to 1. But you don't need any to be defined in ID. Next is auto increment. That's what this AI means. It means that inside the database, each time a user registers, it automatically changes the ID. They get a different ID. They get from 1. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And it automatically chooses the next ID from the last ID in the table. That's what auto increment does. And for auto increment to work, you need to set the index to the primary key. And that's everything you need to worry about an ID. Then you would put all your other fields in, but like your title, and your title could be something like a varchar, because you don't need an incredibly long title, and you could set the length of values to no more than 100 or 25 or whatever. Then if you were writing the description of the URL, it would be description, and it would be text, because and since it's text, you don't want an incredibly long description, so you could set the limit to 250 characters. And then the URL. So for the URL, some people would choose a varchar, but the limit on a varchar is 255 characters. So to accommodate for long URLs, I would choose text, and I wouldn't set a limit. And then you would have to do keywords. This is sort of going into the search engine tutorial, but don't worry, I'll go over it again in the search engine one. You would set it to varchar because you don't want too many keywords for each result, and you would set the limit to 250 or whatever you want. And then when you save it out, where is it? This is there it is. You click save or go, and it says tutorial results has been created. So then we have a table called results now, and if you ran this script in a browser, it would create the same result as what we just created there now. So this is the way it works. So thanks for watching, and please comment, rate, and subscribe, and again, if I've missed anything out, then please tell me. So bye.